Hi, everyone. I'm Tamara Hedges. I'm the Executive Director at the UCR Palm Desert Center, and it's wonderful to sort of see you, but to be with you this evening. And just a few housekeeping things. I can not see you. You can see me, and you'll be able to see the other speakers. But just so you know, we can't see you or hear you unless we turn on your camera or your sound. So if you're at home, drinking lots of water and making sloppy noises, that's okay. We cannot see you or hear you. That's one thing. And I wanted to make sure that you can see and hear me okay. We had some challenges with our little dry run earlier. So could Agam or Amy, one of you just let me know that you can see and hear me okay? So I miss you all. It's wonderful to have you here. This event is, this would be hard to do actually on our stage because there's so many different moving parts that it would be a little challenging just in person. So you can imagine doing this sort of challenge showcase on Zoom. It has a lot of moving parts and a lot of things that can go wrong. And I guarantee you things are going to go wrong. But stick with us, it'll be a fun adventure. This should be about 90 minutes in total. We do have, if you're new to Zoom, which I don't know if anyone at this point is new to Zoom, but we have a chat box down there. We would love to hear from you. We have some folks on our team that are providing some resources and some information. So just let us know that you're here. We'd love to hear from you and find out where you're zooming in from. That would be wonderful. And you can have conversations with each other. You can do private, or you can do to all the panelists or to everyone that's here. However you want to do it, just have fun with it. And then we have a Q&A box. And we will be using the Q&A if we have time for questions for our challengers this evening. If we have time, the judges are going to ask the questions, but if we have a little time for audience participation, we will most certainly do that.
Because of the reverb is so bad.
Okay, so be sure to mute yourself right now and throughout the evening. That would be really helpful if you could do that too. Let's see, we're being recorded. That's important to know that you're being recorded. If you don't want to be recorded, remember we can't see you, but if for some reason you don't want to be part of what's being recorded, that's fine too. Let's see, what else do I need to tell you? Oh, there'll be a 5-minute intermission. So after we see each of our 6 presentations from our challengers, we will have a 5-minute intermission. So if you need to do a refill of your favorite beverage, we could do that then. Hi, Spider, can you mute yourself? Thank you. And let's see, I think that is all for kind of how things work. But again, I just want to say thanks for being here. And I'll go into a few more thank yous in just a second. If we could get our slide number 2 up, Mr. Patel. So I want to go through this UCR land acknowledgement. It's very important that we at UCR respectfully acknowledge and recognize our responsibility to the original and current caretakers of this land, water, and air, the Cahuilla, the Tongva, the Luceño, and Serrano peoples, and all of their ancestors and descendants, past, present, and future. Today, this meeting is home to many Indigenous people from all over the world, including UCR faculty, students, and staff, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to live and work on these homelands. I want to say thank you to our UCR Palm Desert Center partners. Partners, we miss you so much, and we are so thankful for your continued support of our programming. I noticed some of you partners are here tonight. I saw you logging in. And if you want to just say, hey, I'm here and I'm a partner in the chat, we would love to see that. Thank you for supporting us. It's a really tough time, and your support as we are navigating our way through this virtual world is just as important as it was when we were all together at the UCR Palm Desert Center. Your support helps us keep these programs free and open to our entire community. So thank you, partners, for your support. We miss you very, very much. And I believe Maggie put some information in the chat. If you would like to become a partner, there's an easy way to do it. You just go to our website and it'll walk you through the steps of becoming a partner. And I do want to thank, of course, our team. I want to thank Agam Patel. He's the Associate Director of the UCR Palm Desert Center. He's here behind the scenes with the PowerPoint and helping us with all of the technical aspects of this program. And Amy O'Neill, who's here. She should be on vacation this week, and she will be after this. And I just can't thank Amy enough for all that she does to support not only the Cal Naturalist program, but the many programs that we have at UCR Palm Desert. So thank you, Amy. I want to thank Tracy Bartlett, who is one of our California naturalists from our first cohort in 2018. Tracy is part of the team that put together this showcase. So thank you, Tracy, for your enthusiasm and for your hard work. I really appreciate it, and I know the rest of the team does as well. And I also want to thank our hosts who are here, Dr. Cameron Barrows, who is the Associate Research Ecologist at UCR Palm Desert Center, and he leads up our California Naturalist program. 3 years into it already. We'll have our 4th cohort in probably February or March of 2021. And he also is the lead instructor on our new program, our UCR Palm Desert Center Climate Steward program. This is the first of its kind for the UC system, and we're really excited about it. And that launches on October the 3rd. And I believe we have about 35 students for that class. So that's wonderful, including some of our California naturalists. And then Elizabeth Erickson, who is also just an amazing volunteer for our CalNat program. And she was in the class along with Tracy from 2018, which was our very first class. So I am going to turn it over, I think, to Dr. Barrows first. And that's it for me. You'll see me at the end of the program. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Tamara. And welcome all of you. It looks like there's a whopping 92 people out there listening to us right now, which is fantastic. This is a program that I think actually Elizabeth might have envisioned it at one point, but this is something we're really excited about. And for me, this is something that is really near and dear to my heart, which is, if you've taken our California Naturalist class, we often talk about having a community of naturalists, people that are caring about the environment, who want to learn about the environment, who want to be lifelong learners. And this is a way that we can do that. And so this is an extension of that class, just like my Friday blogs to all of the alumni. This is an extension of maintaining and keeping that community of naturalists alive. Now, I know some of you are not alumni, and that's great too. I'm glad you're here to listen to us and maybe get excited about this class and want to join us in future years. I also wanted to pass this on my co-host, which is Elizabeth Ogren Erickson. And so Elizabeth, if you want to say hello.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. I was fortunate enough to listen to all of the capstone projects that all of our challengers from all 3 classes have presented. So I'm especially interested to listen to the showcase presentations this evening. So I think Dr. Cam now is going to talk about our judges, perhaps.
That's right. We have an amazing, esteemed group of judges. And I'm going to start out by introducing them. And I don't know if we're going to have them show their pictures or not at this point. I think we do have pictures of them on the next slide, perhaps. There we go. So the first one that I wanted to talk about right there at the top is Dr. Jennifer G. She's director of the James San Jacinto Mountains Reserve and research associate at UCR. She's been studying North American quail since 1997, and her fieldwork was designed to understand the causes of adaptive radiation across 3 species pairs in the Colorado and Sonoran deserts. Her work is a blend of ecology, behavior, and genetics. I've heard her talk about this before, and if she ever gives a talk, you really want to sit in on this, because these randy beasts breed with each other and create hybrids all over the place. Very, very interesting work. Our second judge is Katie Barrows. She is the Director of Environmental Resources for the Coachella Valley Association of Governments. In that role, she manages the implementation of the Coachella Valley Multiple Species Habitat Conservation Plan and Community Energy Program. She's also the past president of the Riverside San Bernardino chapter of the California Native Plant Society. And finally, our third judge is Alicia Thomas. She is currently a Fish and Wildlife Service biologist with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. She's an interdisciplinary ecologist specializing in exploring the intersections of ecology and society. She's worked in urban ecosystems ecology, silviculture, water resources, GIS applications, disaster resilience, civic ecology, human dimensions, environmental education, wilderness policy, and wildlife refuge management. She currently works as a wildlife biologist, I said, for the Fish and Wildlife Service in the Palm Springs office when they do have them in the office. Otherwise, she's working from home. So those are our judges. I wanted to let everybody in the audience know that we're going to have 2 different methods of awarding prizes for after tonight's presentation, or this afternoon's presentations. And so I want all the audience members to realize that you get to be judges as well. So there will be 2 prizes, one for the judges who I just mentioned, and the other will be for the audience, the top audience prize. And I just wanted to let you know what the criteria that we are expecting people to use when they're judging these folks. You can add anything else you want to it, but at least these 5 things, which is, was the presentation completed in the 3-minute window that we gave these folks? Was it clear and the objective clearly stated? Were the methods and approaches appropriate to address the objective? Given the time constraints of a capstone project, were the conclusions and findings appropriate and consistent with the approaches and observations? And finally, capstones, like we call these projects, almost always lead to new questions. And so did the speaker talk about what the next steps might be, where this project might be going? So next, Elizabeth's going to come back and talk about some of the awards that these winners will get. Take it away, Elizabeth. There you go.
Our Desert Naturalist challengers are competing for prizes and accolades, including 3 awards. First, to thank all of our challengers for their dedication and their efforts. Each challenger will receive a University of California Riverside Palm Desert Center insulated mug. Next, the Judge's Choice Award will be given to the challenger who accrues the most points from our judges. In the case of a tie, each challenger will be granted the award. This signed print, and I believe that we have a picture of that.
Gom, do you want to move the slideshow forward?
It should be the 6th slide, please, Agam. There it is, wonderful. This signed print of original artwork was created by Dr. Cameron Barrows. Dr. Barrows drew this northern spotted owl using pen and ink. Thank you, Dr. Barrows, for sharing artwork from your personal collection with us. For the 3rd award, you, our audience, We'll vote for the audience's choice award by choosing one challenger whose presentation you judge to be the best. The challenger who wins the Audience Choice Award will select any book from bookshop.org, and UCR Palm Desert Center will ship the book to your home. So thank you to all of our challenges, our judges, and our audience for participating. Tamara mentioned earlier that throughout the presentations, you, our audience, are welcome to enter questions in the Q&A on the lower part of your screen. At least it is on my screen. You are welcome to enter your comments in the chat box also, and I can see that people are already doing a great job of that. So next, Dr. Cam is going to introduce our challengers.
Okay, well, we're going to do this one at a time. So as I introduce the challenger, we're going to go out of the current slideshow, and the challenger is going to be given the ability to take control of the screen. And so there you go, Dom. Perfect. So our first challenger is Lanca Villalobos, and she's a freelance cultural worker with roots in the San Gorgonio Pass of Southern California and the Sierra Madre Occidental of Jalisco. She's a proud queer daughter of Mexican immigrants and comes from a long line of educators, artists, dreamers, and practitioners. Over the next 10 years, she has had the past 10 years, sorry, she's had the honor of working with youth and family of color as a community educator, and more recently as a facilitating outdoor experiential learning opportunities in intergenerational communities in the Sonora and Mojave deserts of California. She was a member of our most recent California Naturalist class, the 2020 class. So Blanca, if you want to take charge of the screen, which would be that green share screen at the bottom of your, there you go, you should be able to do that.
Let's see. For some reason, it says that the host disabled attendee screen sharing. I think that might have to do on your something on your end.
Okay. Maybe tomorrow, can you put in,
please.
or Amy, if you could add their Blanca's project.
Lanca, you should have privileges now.
Let me try it out. There you go. Okay, and then should I start my video? Oh no, okay. Well, I'll just go ahead and start without the video. So my project is called BIPOC Stewardship, Conduits for Environmental Justice. And I just want to go over a few details and terms. So I'll go ahead and do that now. But before I do that, I also want to do just an acknowledgement about where I'm at, donde estoy ubicada. So that is, I am on the lands of traditional Cauyan Serrano peoples, otherwise known as Morongo Valley in the high desert of Southern California. And I also want to share that I come, again, like what Mr. Barrows said, like I come from a family of immigrants, but also people that have settled on other people's land. So I just want to share that as a piece of like the kind of like history that my family carries from immigration and migration. So in case some folks are unaware of some of the terms I might be using during this presentation, what I mean by BIPOC. So the acronym for BIPOC means Black, Indigenous, and Person of Color. And what do I mean by conduit? I mean someone or something that acts as a channel and intermediary between two or more ideas, communities, ideologies, philosophies, etc. That's pretty typical of like immigrant children for when they have to translate or interpret some kind of content for their parents, because at least in my personal experience, the school system in the United States didn't offer any access for non-English speakers to be able to understand the documents that they're being given, right? And environmental what? So environmental justice, this is my own personal description, is a holistic approach to the well-being of an individual, a community, and the collective. which includes but is not limited to the access to safe and affordable housing, public transportation, healthcare, and clean water, air, land. So it's pretty much an equitable distribution of basic human needs. So I know folks can chime in on here, but I am going to pose a question, which I will answer myself. But these two images I took, the one on the left was taken just recently, the one on the right was taken a few years ago, and they both have something in common, right? So they're both, you know, one is a plant, obviously, and the other one is a mammal. But they both have something to do with the need to move, with the need to migrate, with the importance of being able, with the importance of having the liberty, the access, the freedom to migrate from one place to the other. So in teaching outdoor education to young children at Whitewater Preserve, which I did over a year ago, you know, what does a species, especially like a plant or especially an animal, need in order to survive and to thrive? Well, they need clean air, like us, clean water, clean land. They need shelter, they need access to food, but they also need space to move about and to migrate. So the coyote on the right, you know, needs to be able to move, right? To move itself, to be able to find, you know, shelter for the season that it finds itself. The milkweed on the left that is so lovely, it offers monarch butterflies that come all the way down from my ancestor homelands, all the way up north, you know, through California, through Oregon, through, you know, almost all the way to Canada, right? And maybe even further. And it provides shelter and it provides access to all of its needs. But milkweed also needs to be able to evolve and do what it needs to do to be able to spread its seeds, you know, and that happens to the wind. That happens to being able to access air, right? To move and to be able to free itself from its current position and go somewhere else to possibly plant more milkweeds for the monarch population. So for these two, it might be really, I mean, it might be common sense if you're coming from an environmental conservation background that, you know, these species do need access to all of those things to survive and thrive. But we oftentimes don't really think about humans and what are the impact of human-made things such as a border wall do to prevent the need to move, to access the same things that a coyote or a milkweed or a monarch butterfly might need. So, and you know, we're coming close to the time of the year where we have to, where, at least from my culture, we honor our ancestors. And even though my parents are still living, this is a chance for me to honor who they are and their legacy. So this is an image of both of my parents and older siblings when they first immigrated, when they first migrated to the US. An unnecessary wall boundary to be able to not just survive, but to thrive and to be able to give that to their offspring, to myself and my other siblings, just as a coyote would, just as a milkweed and a monarch butterfly would as well. So I just want to place them as a way to orient their story and my story and the need for, you know, access to move, to have movement, to migrate and to immigrate. So here's a picture of my family a couple years later after I was born in the Whitewater River. And you can see that we're all having fun. We're playing in the water. We're communing over nature, right? It's a healthy way to commune over access to water, access to land, access to family, being able to see family. And so again, going back to the theme of environmental justice, I just want to give, you know, the most current example, in my opinion, of an environmental injustice. So, you know, for me, like I might have a very particular background as a cultural worker, but a lot of my work is centered around activism and organizing. And so I just want to share this with you all in case some folks don't know, but the Bureau of Land Management, also known as BLM, recently arrested and took custody of 2 land protectors a couple of days ago and threatened dozens of Kumeyaay community members and allies with arrest and removal while they were holding prayer and ceremony on their traditional lands, right? So these are folks, you know, these are first peoples of this land protecting the land, not just from their sacred sites being desecrated, but also as a way to say, you know, people and other relatives of ours, like plants and animals, they need to be able to migrate to survive and thrive. A lot of us are learning about refugia for species right now that are threatened to climate change. And it's the same concept. Like we have to be able to give you know, humans as well as plant and animal beings the freedom to move, to be safe, right? And to continue on their traditions and legacies. So I just wanted to give you know, you all a little bit of an update about what is going on just south of where we're at, really close to us, actually. And what you can do today as someone, maybe as an ally or an accomplice for Indigenous peoples, you can call or email BLM, which in this context stands for Bureau of Land Management, and you can ask them about like why it is that they're removing Indigenous peoples off their land during ceremony. You know, this graphic doesn't say it, but I'm going to say it. Like conservationists, organizations, environmentalists, anybody working in the outdoor industry, we all have the potential to be complicit in white supremacy and to be complicit as settler colonialists, you know. And so this is just a call out for support, you know, as a way to maybe reflect around like what it is that we are doing with our own privileges and our own roles in either perpetuating, you know, settler colonialism or dismantling it, right? So these are another couple of images that I wanted to include. The one on the left is something that is a practice of mine. And so what it says is dreaming as a form of accountability. And I took that photo over in Pipes Canyon. And you can take that literally or figuratively, but really like, what does it mean for us to dream about like, how can we hold ourselves accountable as individuals? Because as the image on the, as the graphic on the right tells us, none of us are above causing harm, right, as individuals. But when we think about an organization and a collective, and especially around a corporation, they hold a lot more power. They are no longer an individual, they are an entity. So what does it mean for us as naturalists, as people who love nature and the land? What does it mean for us to take a pause and really reflect around, like, what does it mean to be accountable to those that have been violated, you know, over 400 years from white supremacy and settler colonialism? So here are some resources. I'm happy to send them out. I need to update them as well. But if you would like to learn more, you can always just Google Indigenous Women Hike. You can Google Signal Fire or Worm Art Ecology. These are all pages that I personally follow to continue learning about my own role as an accomplice and an ally to Black, Indigenous, and other folks of color within this field of outdoor conservation and environmentalism. And if you're curious and want to know more about myself, you're welcome to visit my website. It's listed right here. It's just blancasvillalobos.com. And my email is huixola@gmail.com. That is HUIXOLA. So that's my presentation for today.
Thank you very much, Blanca, sorry. This is a chance for the judges to ask a question or two or three if they'd like to. So let's open it up for our three judges, Katie, Alicia, and Jennifer.
Okay.
I have no questions.
Jennifer, do you have anything?
No, I actually think that I mean, trying in the spirit of trying to keep us on track. Let's go to the next question.
How about you, Alicia? Do you have anything you'd like to ask?
Yeah, I would just want to ask Blanca what her takeaway message for this is again.
Yeah, no, thank you, Alicia. My takeaway message for anyone listening now or later in the recording, if it's accessible to people, is to really just reflect about, you know, the privileges that we hold and how we have either perpetuated harm to others or not. And again, to just remember we're all human beings. We're all multidimensional and complex. So we're not above causing harm, but it is our responsibility to take action around the harm that we have caused, either as an individual or as part of a larger organization. So one thing, again, you can do today, this week, this whole month, is to really support the Kumeyaay tribe just south of us at the border, and really hold BLM, the Bureau of Land Management, accountable to their actions.
Fantastic. Okay, well, again, in the spirit of moving forward and trying to get on time, we're going to move on. Our next speaker is Susan Forgrave. Susan was born in South Africa, and South Africa is a Mediterranean climate, much like coastal Southern California, but wasn't too far away from the deserts, and she had an opportunity not only to visit the Negev Desert, which is up near Israel, but also the areas, well, the Kalahari Desert and the Namib Desert, and I've spent a little bit of time in both of those. They are amazingly beautiful places. She has since moved here to the Coachella Valley, and it's in 2014. And she, I think, is loving this desert as well. So Susan, can you unmute yourself and begin your presentation?
Is that green thingy?
There you go, you're good. So if you want to share the screen.
I don't have a screen.
Okay, then just go ahead and do your presentation. You can also share your video or just talk, whatever you like.
I am just going to talk, but I cannot see anything.
Okay.
So would you like me just to talk?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the introduction, Dr. Barrows. My mini talk is titled My Capstone Project, The Pandemic and Beyond. The goal of my project was twofold. Well, was and still is, learning to propagate native plants and creating a desert urban refugia in my yard while sharing knowledge learned and mistakes made. I celebrate propagation successes, but admit there are frustrations. Obtaining viable seed is not always easy. One of the challenges with introducing native species into the yard has been the Homeowners Association. They have a very narrow view of suitable plants. The nature itself has put hurdles in my path. An example of this is the dwarf orange tree, which had no place in my garden. Costa hummingbirds had other ideas and began nesting in it. The tree has stayed. COVID-19 should have brought me more time for propagation, but grappling to understand this disease seemed to fill my mind and sap my energy. I was at risk of being devoured by my couch. 2020 is also the year that many of us have been forced into examining our hearts and minds as racism dramatically ignited on the streets. But it took a chance meeting on a hiking trail to galvanize me back into action. It was dusk, and Tom, my husband, and I were on the Chuckwalla trail. He was busy setting up his camera for some night sky photos. A young man came along and asked me a trail question. There we were, the old white lady and the Nigerian. We talked COVID, we talked racial discrimination, we talked nature. He asked me questions about climate change. Our conversation covered so much ground. He made a last comment before leaving. We just need to keep getting involved, all of us together, out there together. I am awake now. I have circled back to my capstone project and with renewed energy and moving forward. Perhaps, to quote Buzz Lightyear, infinity and beyond is the goal. I will keep getting involved and you will hear my naturalist voice. Our challenges within California are great. Unfortunately, we have to play catch up. A former president wrote, "We stand now well over the threshold of a century, big with the fate of mankind. Many great problems confront us all over the civilized world, and nowhere do we face problems graver than those here in America. Ours is not an easy task." How true are these words? But the words were not written in the 21st century, but in 1911. But I do believe that together, with hard work, there is always hope to get to the beyond. I thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Susan. let's start with Alicia. Do you have any questions for Susan?
Yeah, I'm liking that so far in both presentations, there's a theme of considering the human elements in conservation and environmentalism. So on that, Susan, what do you think are some of the most, the more prominent challenges you had this summer as far as native plants in an urban environment, looking at it from the human aspect?
From the human aspect, this summer has been 120 degrees in the yard, but I've kind of found ways to overcome. I've really actually had fun that I've kept rush milkweed and desert milkweed alive through as tiny little 2-inch plants alive.
Jennifer,
Thank you.
Jennifer, do you have a question you could ask?
I'm interested in knowing whether the milkweed was a home to the monarch butterflies.
Sorry, do you mean is it? I don't think I quite understand your question.
I don't know where you live.
Oh,
So-
I live in India. So.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it is.
I thought you were calling from California. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I do live in the sort of the Republic of the Coachella Valley.
Okay. Well, if you had monarch butterfly there, it would be interesting to know on your milkweeds.
I haven't yet. I've had queens.
Okay.
Great. Katie, how about you?
Susan, can you tell us what you would see as the most important next step in your project?
Is really continuing to do with what I do in sort of problem solving, but be able to communicate better, you know. Be careful, folks, you're all going to get plants for Christmas. But seriously, is being able to kind of share what I have discovered, and then perhaps other people can carry that into other directions.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Susan. That was great. We're going to go on to our next speaker, who's, we all call her Spider, Jane Falk. And I can't say she's the most emphatic enjoyer of nature that I've ever met, but she's really close. Everything just makes her swoon, on her own words, because she just loves being in nature and being outside. She was born in London, which is nothing like the desert, and went to school, got a degree in art design, but came to the US and has been a professional volunteer for the most part. She's been working as park rangers in Thousand Oaks and even here in the Joshua Tree National Park. And she's become an avid reptile nut. She loves everything with scales. So, Spider, can you unmute yourself, first of all?
Screen.
Sorry. There you go. Okay. So you want to share the screen? So down in the
Yes.
bottom right, on the bottom level, there you go. Perfect.
So hello everyone and welcome to my Desert Natural Showcase that I'm calling Moving On Up. Since May this year, I have been working on a survey in Pine City Trail in Joshua Tree. And in early June, I was joined by Kathy Wiley, and in September by Colin Barrows. So Pine City is an intergrade zone between the Mojave and the Colorado Desert. And it has gorgeous rock all kinds of cool rocks. And hello. And turn that off. And very, very cool plants. There are young Joshua trees, beautiful nolinas. I can hear an echo. Anyway, so there are very, very cool plants. There are over 12 species of cacti. There's one succulent, the Dudleya, and absolutely beautiful Mojave mound cactus and the cotton tops. And then in the spring, we have really, really abundant, beautiful wildflowers like the larkspur and the beautiful Kennedy's mariposa. So this whole study has been about the desert horned lizard, who is slowly pushing out Blainville's horned lizard. And the hypothesis is these animals, the desert, are pushing out the Blainvilles because of climate change and also a lack of prey and insects because of the heat and the change in their climate. And the other lizard is the long-nosed leopard lizard, Gambelia. So on June the 16th this year, I was so lucky to be able to observe a pair of mating desert horned lizards. Kind of kinky, but it was very cool to be able to see that. And these females, they incubate their eggs for about 60 days. And sure enough, last week, there was a hatchling. It was so wonderful to see them. The way I took all my information down was first I would take a photo, then I would do a GPS mark, and then I would do a UTM mark to make sure I had the marks all together. And sometimes all I saw was a little teeny tiny flash and there was nothing there. So I knew the animal was there somewhere. And then later in the spring, we started seeing these beautiful female leopard lizards. She's all red on the sides. That means that she has been bred, so she's gravid. And sure enough, last week, Colin saw this gorgeous, gorgeous little baby up near the boulders. So in the 3 months, we didn't do 2 weeks in August because it was so blindingly hot. We've managed to see 33 desert horned lizards and 8 of the leopard lizards. And as you can see in the map, they're all pretty well spaced out all the way down the trail. So I can say with confidence that they really have pushed out the Blainvilles, and they've just taken over. They're breeding, they've taken over the space, and it's very interesting to see this. So some of the other animals we saw were collared lizards, we saw zebra tails, we've seen whiptails, and of course, everybody's favorite snack, the western side-blotched lizard. And we saw one snake, so I was so excited to see one snake because I'm a snake lover. And this has led me to my next project, which I'm going to undertake next year, because I think if the lizards are moving up, I think the snakes are going to start moving up. And this area is incredible territory for rosy boas. So to finish, I would like to tell you all and remind you all on the part of the Blainville's horned lizard, climate change is real. Thank you very much. That's it.
Sorry. Okay, Jennifer, I'm sorry. I thought I was speaking to everybody, but I forgot to unmute myself. Jennifer, do you have a question for Spider?
Yeah, I'm interested in how she foresees continuing this project.
Well, I'm obviously going to keep on going on the trail every week. I find Tuesdays are the best day, and I'm usually out there between 8 and noon. And I will continue doing the survey until at least the animals start to brumate, which will probably be October, November. And then I have a ton of paperwork to put into this incredible file that Dr. Barrows gave me that was actually started in 1958 by these geniuses of herpetology like Dennis Haney. And then once we get spring, I'm going to go out again and carry on with the survey. But I also want to explore that trail. There's a huge hill to the north of the trail called Negro Hill, which has got about maybe 7,500 feet. And I think I might find Blainvilles up there. So I will be exploring in the spring. A lot of paperwork and then exploring in the spring. And I also want to do my own private study of seeing if the snakes are moving up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Alicia, do you have any questions for Spider? You have to unmute yourself. Don't make the same mistake I did.
Sure.
Well, let's move over to Katie. Katie, do you have a question?
Actually, Jennifer asked my question, so in the interest of time, I have no more.
Dr. Cam,
Yes.
we have a question in the Q&A.
All right.
So a person by the last name of Hinman is wondering, what does moving up mean in a desert setting? Would you like to answer that for us, Spider, please?
Yes, these lizards have got an historic range, and their historic range in Joshua Tree was around 45 between, they do live between sea level and 6,000 feet. So in the past, these lizards have been seen lower down in the lower part of the Colorado Desert. And what they've done is they've slowly moved up because of climate change, and they've pushed out the poor Blainvilles that does exist up to 8,000 feet. And that trail I was on was 4.5.
You cut out there, but I think you were saying 4,500 feet there.
Yeah.
Good.
So.
Okay.
That
Well,
answer your question?
I think you did. Jane, Spider, thank you very much for that. And we're going to move on to the next speaker. And that's Joy Cantrell. Joy is part of our 2020 class along with Blanco. And Joy is, we need Spider to, Spider, if you could mute yourself. There you go. All right. Joy is a culinary instructor at Rialto High School and at San Bernardino Community College. As I said, she is a 2020 certified California naturalist and who has been an indigenous food proponent for the last 20 years. Today, she'll feature one of her favorite local desert foods that are currently in season and easily sourced in both the field and the market. Bon appetit. So Joy, you can share the screen if you'd like, and you can play your video.
Okay. All
There's
right.
Joy.
Is the video on the screen, or is it just mine that I'm going to share?
Just share yours for now. Unless it doesn't work, then we'll have somebody else share it.
All right, sounds good.
So first you have to go down to the share the screen, that green thing at the bottom.
Got that.
There, oh, there you go.
And let's see, I'll try to make it a little bit bigger. I don't know how big I can get it. Okay. I don't know how well the volume works.
So these are the tunas on our Napoleons, and they make a great juice. And I'm going to go ahead and harvest some of these right now. So you just want to stick your knife into the Napoleon, the tuna, twist it, and it comes right off. You don't want to touch them because they have lots of little thorns on them. Now over here, you have this white material on the tuna, and that is actually a cochineal, which is an insect that has covered itself. And so the Native Americans would use that as a natural dye for their textiles. And it makes a beautiful carmine dye, which I'll show you in a little bit. Paddles, or you can call them paddles or paddles, and trim off the edges. I'm doing this. You can see trim them off. It's fairly slimy, okay? Substance. Now, if you have any extra like spines, like right there,
Again, you want to make sure you cut off all those spines. And like I said, there's a couple of different ways you can do this. You can like throw them on the grill and burn them off. And some people like to put them into boiling water is another good thing to do. And the boiling water is going to help remove that oxalic acid, which you don't really want a lot of in your foods because it affects the absorption of calcium. It can also lead to kidney stones, which you don't want either. All right, so just trim all that off. Again, just kind of like shave it. Make sure you're getting all the spines off. And you can coat these with a little bit of olive oil and throw them on your grill. You can use them in salads. They're great if you slice them up with some eggs. I've had them just as a side dish. If you like vegetarian tacos, they're great that way. A little bit of beans, maybe some farmer's cheese or the white queso cheese. Now I have our nopales grilling. I'm going to grill them in about 6 to 8 minutes on each side. Really pretty green. Now those I'm going to be using to make up to prepare syrup, and that syrup I will be able to use in different drinks or sauces. I've also diced them up after I skinned them. Diced them up and used them in the salsa. And it's a very nice colorful salsa. Some people like to use them to flavor frostings, cake batter. So different uses for them. As you can see, quite the color change. They're now more of an olive green. And getting a little drier looking as the slime kind of boils out. And here is our tuna. Give them a nice shot and bring off all the blockage. Remove the peel here. Okay. And you can actually use your fingers to peel it off if you want to do it that way, or you can just slice it all the way around. Either way is fine. All of the glockets have been removed. Now these I've boiled, but like I said, you can put them on the grill like I did with the other ones as well. Either way is fine to get rid of all that slime here. All right, maybe kind of hot. There you go. I'm going to remove the peel, and then I'm going to go ahead and push them through a strainer. All right. To make my sauce, I'm going to add 1 cup of the juice, 1 cup of water, half a cup of sugar, or you can use honey or agave syrup, and some lime juice. Okay, and I'm going to cook that down for about 30 minutes. It should all be strained. And then I have my simple syrup that I can use in my lemonade. So if you want to make margaritas, you can use it for sauce for pancakes. So this is all of the strained tuna, and it's ready to be made into a sauce. So as a sauce, you can add some lime juice to it, some additional water. If you want to add a sweetener, agave syrup works really well, or honey or sugar. And add the amount that you feel you need to add in order to make a good syrup. So at the beginning, let me see if I can bring back, pause that. All right. So let me see, I don't know if you can see the picture or not. So this is what it made up. It made up margarita with it, and also I did like a mix with the nopales, some black beans, corn, and made those into tacos. Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Joy. So let's go back to the judges. Joy, if you could stop your screen share.
Sure.
It does look good. I wish you had enough for everybody right now. So, Jennifer, do you have a question for Joy?
No, but I would like to eat that.
Me too. How about Alicia? Are you, there you go. Okay.
Yeah, I apologize. I had a screen freeze with the last one. I was talking, but it looks like it wasn't going through. But From your background in indigenous food knowledge, do you perceive what do you think might be the most prominent emerging threats to any ethnobotanical practices in the Coachella Valley from, recent extreme events or increasing extreme events like the wildfire or climate change? Do you see any immediate effects coming from that?
I think part of it with the ethnobotanical studies, it's understanding the cultures of the people, and it's kind of like keeping their cultures alive through food. So part of it is respecting habitat. And a lot of people, when they see like prickly pear cactus, they're just like, okay, that's just kind of like a weed. But that's actually a great food source, not only for humans, because it is so healthy. I mean, it's got fiber, it's got vitamin C, it's got calcium. It helps to lower blood sugar levels. It's just a great nutritional warehouse. And it's good for humans, but it's also good for animals. The lizards love it, the rabbits, the coyotes. And it's the same with like other products that we have, like mesquite trees, or the acorns from our oaks. So for me, it's preserving habitat and not building over it. And then also just, investing in these foods, because the more we invest in them, the more we grow them, the more likely we are to preserve them. Like chia seeds, for a long time, people just use those as kind of like like a hobby, with the little planters. But then once they realized how nutritious chia seeds are, now they're really popular. And so people are growing them more. And those are the kinds of things I like to see.
Fantastic. Katie, do you have a final question?
Yes, Joy, maybe you can tell us what your next step is from the project you did, and it looks delicious, and thanks for making it look easy.
I like to work with my students and share with them the indigenous foods of this area, as well as their traditions from their countries.
Your choice.
Okay, so Jennifer, you need to mute yourself maybe. I don't know if there's anybody. There you go. Thank you. All right.
We have a question.
Okay, Elizabeth, what's that question?
So John Fraser is wondering if you are working on a cookbook, Joy. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Joy, you're not coming through. You need to unmute.
Always happy to share whatever recipes I have. I don't have a cookbook though.
I thoroughly enjoyed your capstone project, and there were definitely things that I wanted to make after listening to you talk about the different recipes. Thank you, Joy.
Thank you.
All right, everybody else mute up. Our next speaker is Chaz Bemis. Chaz used to be a cameraman and lighting director in Hollywood, and now is a plant lover, gardener, bird watcher, people watcher, and enjoy observing whatever natural setting he finds himself in. He and his wife Kathy has had a parrot for many years and got hooked on bird culture, and they've traveled to Costa Rica several times and enjoy radically different ecosystems. So Chaz, if you can unmute yourself first of all, and then grab the screen by pushing that bright green icon at the bottom of the page there. There, oops, there you go. You got it. Okay, so now if you can just play your video, we're ready to go.
Dr. Cam?
Just be a second. Here we
I
go.
think Kathy Wiley is on this also.
That's right. Sorry about that. I missed.
No worries. I got it.
This project looks at the pollinating behavior of carpenter bees, genus Xylocoppa. We chose these bees because of an observation made several years ago while enjoying coffee in our outdoor courtyard next to several tomato plants. The carpenter bee started working the tomato flowers. She went from flower to flower with a consistent vibrational frequency, but once on the flower, she buzzed with a very high frequency thoracic vibration. This high frequency vibration is called sonication or buzz pollination. As she buzz-pollinated, a cloud of yellow pollen floated out, fertilizing the tomato flower as well as gathering a sample of pollen to take to the next flower and or back to the nest to make bee bread, larval food. She repeated this process on several different flowers, and later we could see those flowers bore fruit with a much higher frequency than those unvisited. Our original investigational question was whether the direct contact of the tomato flower or the sonic vibration through the air near the flower did the pollinating. We used an electric toothbrush to simulate the buzz pollination and compared the direct touch blossoms with the blossoms exposed to sonic vibrations near the flowers only. We noticed visible pollen when touched directly with the toothbrush and no pollen when held near but not touching the flower. We observed the female carpenter bee helping us pollinate these flowers as she felt were ready. The result was a lot of tomatoes. Though scientific rigor was not possible, the direct touch buzz pollination, or sonication, seemed to result in many more flowers being fertilized. We have subsequently observed the females collecting nectar. This, in combination with pollen, is made into bee bread for the next hatch of bees. We also found a new nest in a partial palm tree stump in our backyard. Nearly invisible, the nest hole normally faces east. Males and females are strikingly different in appearance and social roles. Males, golden color with green eyes, die after mating and do not sting. Females can live up to 3 years, developing separate hatching chambers from a common nest opening, cooperating with sisters and daughters over those years. Females can sting, but only in extreme situations. They are known as solitary bees, no colony, no queen, no worker guest, females and males only.
That's it. Go ahead and just hit stop. That's
This
it.
project looks at the pollinating behavior.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
I can, Chuck. You did a great job. That was even better than last time.
Well, shorter is always better, right?
That's what they say. So make sure that you, and I'm assuming you can go up and stop sharing the screen.
Yeah.
So go up there to the top. You should be able to stop share. There you go. Perfect. Okay. Katie, do you have a question for Kathy and Chuck?
This is a very cool project. How would you apply your results to conclusions about what's going on in our ecosystem?
I couldn't quite hear your question.
Is this better?
Yes.
My question is, how would you apply your results to what's going on in our ecosystem and changes that are happening in our environment?
Ecosystem.
These bees evolved with the desert, and they have a special ability to kind of cool themselves as they fly and do whatever they do. I am not aware that they are unable to cope with the increased heat, but that might be a good, interesting place to go forward. But all I know is that our carpenter bees seem to be healthy here, and we're on the floor of the valley, Rancho Mirage, and which is pretty warm, and they seem to be doing fine. I don't know if I answered your question or not.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Alicia, do you have a question?
Yes. Yes, was there an average amount of time you noticed that the carpenter bee would spend pollinating a plant before moving on?
About 2 seconds. And this is an interesting difference between carpenter bees and honeybees. Honeybees take a lot longer and cover a lot less ground. The carpenter bee is like really fast and can cover a lot of ground.
Great. Jennifer, do you?
Yeah, I'm going to ask that same question I've been asking everybody. How do you see this project going forward?
This is Kathy. I've seen some possible carpenter bee access holes up in Idlewild in conifer trees. So that's my next step, is to verify if I did see carpenter bee homes at that elevation in that type of tree. That's one of the areas that we would look at. We didn't indicate this year that we observed many carpenter bees feeding on the pollen of the Palo Verde. There would be swarms of carpenter bees on the Palo Verde. So that would be something to capture on the next thing as well.
Well, we would certainly support you here at the James if you would like to pursue that research.
We're also going to market a new brand of tomato flour toothpaste if anybody's interested.
Well, with that, Chuck, thank you very much. And both Chuck and Kathy, you did a great job.
Thank you.
We do have what I believe is our final 2 presenters. They're going to do it as a pair. This is Colin Barrows and Cindy Hernandez Oriana Barrows. They are from the first class, the 2018 class of the California Naturalists. Both of them were recently employees of the Friends of the Desert Mountains. Cindy still is. In fact, she just closed. Her job is in charge of land acquisition, and she just closed this past week on a 481-acre parcel called Rancho Royale out in the Desert Hot Springs area towards Mission Creek. So that's pretty amazing. Colin is a freelancer right now, and if anybody wants to give him a job, I think he'd be interested. So Colin, if you want to take on the screen share, can you do that by clicking the green at the bottom there?
Yeah, I think I'm good. I think we're good.
All right, take it on.
All right, thank you, everybody. We all know that the breathtaking diversity of plants and animals found here in the Coachella Valley. We're truly fortunate to enjoy and explore the protected landscapes around us.
And yet we must recognize that not everyone who lives here is able to enjoy these spaces equally. It is not enough to protect the land. We must also ensure that access to these lands is diverse, equitable, and inclusive. No, are you showing the wrong one?
Just missed the button there. This map of trailheads is a stark reminder of existing inequities. Trails are concentrated on the west side of the valley, leaving residents of the East Valley with fewer options nearby.
However, trails are only part of the story of where people can enjoy nature. Urban parks also represent an important resource for people to get outdoors, be physically active, meet with friends and family, and even for wildlife to thrive in the developed environment.
Indeed, iNaturalist shows 25,000 nature observations made outside of conservation areas in the Coachella Valley, representing 1,235 different species.
Parks have become even more valuable during the COVID-19 pandemic, and we expect a continued trend as climate crisis deepens. Park design choices can lead to a huge difference in their positive impacts on our community today, and also help us confront future environmental challenges.
To quantify these design choices, we have developed the Coachella Valley Park Resilience Rating, or CV-PER. The CV-PER consists of 3 scores. The first is the value score, which uses Google Maps listings to estimate how much people enjoy each park, factoring in the star rating and the number of reviews. The next score is based on the park environment. We surveyed 52 parks throughout the Coachella Valley and counted the native plants growing in each one. parks receive points for each species with bonuses for plants with extra benefits to pollinators, such as milkweed and tuberosa. Points were deducted for invasive species, such as fountain grass and tamarisk. We also considered the size of each park, giving greater weight to parks with more space and more room for habitat.
CVPER also considers people. Using census data, we determined the number of people living near each park and factored in the amount of shaded space available, as well as specific innovative features we felt embodied the resilience of each park, such as bilingual signage, solar-powered LED lights, and fruit trees.
We combined the value, environment, and people scores to determine the total CVPER. Here are the top parks we found.
We specifically recommend Patton Park in Indio, Ironwood Park in Palm Desert, Ocotillo Park in Cathedral City, and the Wellness Park in Palm Springs to see great examples of parks that are building resilience for our communities in uncertain climate future.
And don't forget to make a few I-9 observations while you're there. We hope CVPER scores will encourage positive park design choices and provide a roadmap for new and renewed parks in the Coachella Valley. Thank you, and we'll see you in the parks.
Great presentation. Thank you very much, you two. So why don't we start with Alicia? Do you have any questions for Cindy and Colin?
Yes, for the parks you identified in your conclusion, did you notice any additional barriers for community access, and what might some suggestions for that be?
Do you want to?
Well, we did take into account accessibility. One of the main things that I was particularly focusing was handicaps, parking spots, and the ramps for people to be able to walk through the park in paved areas, not just for people in wheelchairs, but for parents with strollers or people with walkers or a walking stick or anything that would be limited mobility. So we did look into that as well as whether they were near residential areas so that people that don't have vehicles could also walk to the park.
So Katie, do you have a question? Doesn't sound like Katie has a question. She didn't unmute herself, but that's all right. Jennifer G, do you have a question?
I'm on the tail end of this session, but I'm still kind of interested in knowing whether you are thinking about folks that are also having to go through national parks to get to our reserves. Oftentimes that's a barrier. For instance, Lake Fulmar is closed right now.
Definitely we're thinking about that, but sort of as this analysis, we were focusing on the parks that are the city urban parks that are in the city limits. So in these cases, these were all parks that are operated by the cities of the Coachella Valley.
Okay, I don't know if there's any questions from the audience. And if not, we're going to take an intermission. And
wait, there are.
Okay, sorry. Elizabeth, do you have some questions you can pass on?
So Kristen Cummings is wondering, were invasive species very prevalent and what can be done about it? And I think that she means what can be done about the invasive species. Is that correct, Kristen?
I think maybe we can just start answering the question. Yeah,
She says yes.
There were, unfortunately, quite a bit of invasive species throughout the parks. I believe there were 18 different parks that had fountain grass and about a half a dozen that had either the aethel tamarisk or the salt cedar tamarisk. And the fountain grass question is really easy. You just tear it out and it's gone. The tamarisk is a little trickier to get rid of, for sure, but and some of the tamarisk trees that are more mature, you can envision that you have to be careful about how to remove them so that you're not also removing shade and habitat value at the same time. But, I think there's a strategy that could be pursued there to do that properly.
I wish that Kristen was on here live. She says, but are the parks being educated? Kristen, can you explain that a little bit more, please? And meanwhile, while Kristen's doing that, Tracy Albrecht has a great comment. She said, when in Palm Springs Wellness Park, keep an eye out for vermilion flycatchers. That's one of my favorites. Pyrocephalus, what, rubinus?
We saw,
We did see one.
we didn't see one at Wellness Park, but we did see several vermilion flycatchers in the process of going through all the 50 parks, 52 parks.
So Kristen has a great addition to her question. She said, why are they planting invasive species?
Well, that's a really good question, and I think it all has to do with education. Unfortunately, there's a lack of information out there, and sometimes you go to the store, or sometimes you'll just see that says desert flower mix or desert tolerance, and people assume that that would be the correct thing to plant. So one of the things that we hope to do with this presentation is potentially share it with the local cities where we visited these parks.
Yeah, just to add to that, you definitely get the impression going around the parks that like somebody Googled water tolerant plants or something like that, and it's the same 10 plants that you kind of see at all the parks everywhere. And I think as California naturalists, we can be resources for how to the cities and to other communities looking at these kinds of constructed wild areas or wilderness areas as to how the right way to the right species to pick.
Thank you, Kristen, for your great questions.
Yeah, that was excellent. So we are going to take an intermission, and this is a working intermission because the three judges are going to break out into a separate Zoom meeting, and they should be leaving right away, and they'll be conferring and setting up their scores. But for the rest of you, let's let Elizabeth talk about the process for you guys to vote for the favorite audience project.
So we need your input for our Audience Choice Award. Please vote for the one challenger whose presentation you judge to be the best. You can also test your own lizard knowledge on the intermission slide and see if you can name all 6 lizards that are there. Tracy Bartlett, thank you so much for creating that collage of photos. And we'll look forward to seeing you in 5 minutes.
Okay. I think we're all done at this point. I love that music. That was letting me bounce around in the chair while that was playing. So whoever picked that out, good choice.
That was me, Dr. Barrows.
Well, good choice, Laura. Okay, well, first of all, we're gonna see how we did in the lizard identification part of the intermission. So there's 6 species of lizards here. And so let's, if I don't, can you see which one let's do the top left one. Can people in the chat tell me which type of lizard that one is? All right. So it is a horned lizard. So Scott got that right. So did Carrie. So the question is, which horned lizard is? We have 3 different horned lizards that live in the Coachella Valley. So if anybody want to wager between the 3 of them, which one it might be? Okay, Chuck got it right. It's a Blainesville. Chuck and Kathy, I'm sorry, together. I've got a good feeling that Kathy was the one that was giving Chuck the hint on that one. So let's go to the next one on the top row, the middle one, that little guy on the rock there. What do we got for him? All right. We had spiny lizard. I saw that. That's good.
We lost a visual.
Yeah, I don't know where it went.
Agam, can you share that intermission screen with the lizards for us again?
So We had, of the choices, Bill Baker and Chaz, or Chuck, got him right. It was a spiny lizard. But we can't see the picture, so I can't direct you to the next one, although I remember what it was. I don't know if, Amy, can you do? There we go. Excellent. Okay, so now we're going to go to the one on the top row, far right. Let's see who's got some guesses on that one.
Dr. Kim, Brianna Miller put an answer in the Q&A. She has banded rock, ? And I'm unsure which one she's referring to.
It's the top right-hand corner there. And it does have a banded tail, but that's not quite right, though they do like to live in rocks.
Can you guys see my cursor when I do this?
Yes.
Okay, I'm your Vanna White over here.
Very good, Vanna. You're doing an excellent job. Okay, that one is a Chuckwalla, a female Chuckwalla. So because we're looking now at Tamara's screen, I can't look at the chat anymore, so I don't know how many people got that one right. Let's go to the bottom left. I want that one that's got spotting all the way down its tail. What might that one be? One that Vanna is circling with her cursor right now. There you go. So that would be not a zebra tail, although somebody thought it might be that. That is a leopard lizard, right? The spots were the giveaway there. So that's a leopard lizard. Now we'll go to the middle one on the bottom row. This is a very young individual of this species. Usually they're very big and white. Live on the valley floor. There we go. Looks like Kathy got that one right again. That one is the desert iguana. And then probably the most challenging one is this one on the far right bottom. See if anybody can get that one right. If you get that one right, then you know you've really learned your lizards. It's not a fence lizard, but good try, Kathy. Okay, just to move it along, I'm going to tell you it's a long-tailed brush lizard. So good job for those of you who took the chance to see what they were. Before I go any further, I just want to really thank the judges. Both Alicia, Katie, and Jennifer did a fantastic job. And I hope you enjoyed yourself and maybe even learned a few things, but the three of you did a spectacular job. The trouble with doing a spectacular job is we're going to ask you to come back next time, probably. But I was going to move on and say that we do have a winner for both the Judges Award and for the Audience Choice Award. And Elizabeth will announce the Audience Choice, but I'm going to announce the Judges Choice. It was very close. There wasn't, everybody got a lot of good points on this, but the Judges Choice Award was Chuck and Kathy. So you would get the signed print of a spotted owl. So Elizabeth, you want to pass on who won the Audience Choice Award?
Such excitement, Dr. Cam. So the recipient of the inaugural Desert Naturalist Showcase Audience's Choice Award is Jane Spider Falk. And I really wish I could hear her reaction right now. Thank you to all of our challengers for your tremendous presentations. Really appreciate all of the effort that you put in, the time that you did, and we look forward to having this be an annual event. So I'm going to pass it on to Tamara for closing comments.
And I will be there in 1 second. Hang on 1 second. I had actually something, a quote that I wanted to put up. Unless Agam Patel is here and can put up my slide for me. Thank you, Mr. Patel. So I love this quote from Albert Einstein. We still do not know 1,000th of 1% of what nature has revealed to us. And I think those of us who've been in the California Naturalist program totally get this. And that's why it's so exciting to watch these capstone projects and listen to the various interests and passions that the California naturalists have. Some of us, I was in the first class, the 2018 class, and I know for me, I all of a sudden started looking at rocks in a different way that I had never looked at before. My dogs are barking, sorry. That's about 225 pounds of dogs that are gonna be, there's only 3, but they're big, that are gonna be making noise here. I started looking at rocks as how they can become really important habitat, and particularly in the warm months for so many critters, including the lizards that we just saw on the slide. So insects and plants and just everything in the natural world, we have so much to learn. And I love this program. I'm so grateful for those brave challengers who stuck with us for this. First of all, that you were willing to do it, and then you stuck with us for the 90 minutes and were able to present important topics that mean a lot to you. So thank you for sharing. We really do appreciate it. And I also want to thank Dr. Cameron Barrows and Elizabeth Erickson for being our hosts. I want to thank our judges for being here, Alicia and Jennifer and Katie. Thank you so much. I also want to thank the team again. I forgot earlier to thank Maggie Downs, who is with us tonight in the chat and is always with us on our marketing efforts and does so much behind the scenes, as well as Mr. Agam Patel and Miss Amy O'Neill. So thank you so much, and stay tuned. We have lots more coming up for all of you virtually until we can gather again at the UCR Palm Desert Center. The event that we have tomorrow night is going to be a lot of fun. So a little later time, but same place. It'll be 6 p.m. It'll be on Zoom, and this is part of our Litflix series, which is our binge fest, since so many of us are binging on Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime and whatever it is that you've got. For me, it's Turner Classic Movies. So this is the 3rd in our 3-part series, and it is going to be focused on The Watchmen, who, if you watched the Emmys the other night, you know that The Watchmen did quite well. So anyway, join us tomorrow, 6 o'clock. I think Maggie's going to put that link in the chat to register. And again, thank you all for being here. As I said, I miss all of you. It's really hard, isn't it, to not be together? But at least we have this, you know, at least we don't have Paris, but we have Zoom. And we'll keep at it, we'll keep learning. A lot of things actually did not go as we planned tonight, but still I had fun, and I hope you did too. And I hope to see you back soon. Thank you so much. Good night.